Hello and welcome back to Living with Mary J. Today we are talking about making your relationships, your marriages a lot stronger. And you may ask, what do you mean a lot stronger? And it's not that it's going to be so much a lot stronger, it's just to kind of keep it alive, to keep it going. Because when you heard, I was reading this, I'm always reading. And sometimes I'm reading so much, I really can't remember where I'm getting the info, but I read that within the United States today, that between 40 to 60% of marriages end in divorce. But then another person told me you got to look at how many people that are actually surviving, that their marriages are surviving. So that could be positive if you're a positive person. But then I look at the divorce rate. I just, I don't want that to happen. And I know it happens. And sometimes I can't really, I don't really want to entertain people getting a divorce, just the idea. And it could be mainly because I want to say a victim of a divorce, my parents' divorce. And I think that I'm a victim because I was a young child. And I think sometimes no matter what people say, the kids are okay, they've realized, the kids are big enough to understand about, the parents divorcing. It wasn't my case. I kind of pretended that I understood what was going on. I pretended to be on my mother's side. I pretended to be on my dad's side. But really, if the truth be told, I wish they had stayed together. Because it was like, who do I have Thanksgiving dinner with? Who do I have Christmas dinner with? My dad's in another house. I'm with my mother here. And I just wish that we all stayed just one happy unit. But that was not the case. So then I started thinking, well, what could they have done to make it last? What could they have done? But my dad told me this story, and I had no choice but to believe it. He said that they actually had fallen out of love, that they got married when they were really young. And I think both were 17 or 18. And so after 27 years of marriage, the love just wasn't there because, I don't know, looking at that now, it didn't really make sense. But like I said, I believed what he was telling me because he was so sincere in telling me about it. And so maybe with the tips that we're going to talk about today, maybe their marriage could have worked. And maybe, the relationship could have been stronger. So let's just talk about that. Now, I also have to say is that I realize that a lot of people, we're all different. So what works for one person will not work for the other person. And the bottom lines to a successful relationship, marriage relationship, whatever close relationship that you're in, it depends on the individual. I realize that the individual has to want to make it work. Because if the individual doesn't, then it won't work. So let's just go ahead and talk about some of these tips that I have. And first of all, when we think about marriage, or most average people, when they think about marriage, they think about marriage being wonderful, just full of marital bliss. Intimacy, intimacy off the chart. It's like, you don't have any financial problems. Everything is just okay. You have the spouse that understands you, that listens to you, that there's not, everything is just so. It's just so peaceful. It's so wonderful. That's a dream, right? And I would have to say it is a dream because if it's just like that, most marriages aren't like that. But it can be sort of similar to that, I guess, if you take these steps in mind, what I'm going to tell you. You have to go back to say, now I'm a woman, so I'm going to speak from a woman's standpoint. Of course, I'm a woman. You say, what does most women want in a relationship? Most of all, we want to be loved. We love to hear the word love. And more especially, if you say, I love you, that's even better. It just makes us feel really good inside. And then with that, I love you, it's even good to show us that you love us. We need to know that you love us through your actions, through your words. We need to know that you have our back no matter what, that you're there. So showing the love could be, with just holding hands. If you're walking with your husband, I'm going to say your husband or your wife, go ahead and grab her hand. That means so much. That shows, and to me, it shows that you're connected, that bond that you guys share, it's there. That love is there. Women love to be touched for the most part. Now, I'm just saying not all women, as I said, keep it clear. Some of us are different. For the most part, we love to be, to feel or to receive these actions of love. Such as I said, holding my hand, maybe just grabbing me and hugging me. Or if you're sitting on the sofa, pull me close to you, that type of thing. Do that. Show the person that you love them. And then never, ever don't forget to say, I love you. That is very important. Women really like to hear that. Okay, so they want to feel love. They want to know that they're loved. No matter what, you have to put your spouse above all others. I remember, and I'm telling you some personal things. After I had gotten married, my husband was really, and he still is, very close to his mother. And I treasure, I'm not one of these jealous daughter-in-laws, and I treasure that relationship that he has with her. But at one point, I felt that something had happened. I really can't recall what happened, but something happened. It was as though he was taking her side over me. And that's a no-no. But he did. And so that instance, I thought that he wasn't showing me that he loved me no matter what, because I thought that I was being fair in this case. And he was taking his mother's side on whatever was going on. And that's not a good thing either. So once again, what women want, one of the things, and there's pretty much 4 things that women want. And if you meet these things, men, or whatever the case may be, then you pretty much have a happy marriage in meeting those needs. One is the woman needs to know that she feels loved, okay? Number 2 is we want real conversation. We want to know that you're actually listening to what we're saying. That's very important. We like to talk about things more so than just the kids or about your job. Because a lot of times when guys come home from work, they're talking about things that happen. Bob did this to me and the boss did that. We want to hear that too, but we want to hear something a little bit more. We want to have some conversations about the dreams, future plans. How was your day? But it's kind of touchy right there. We do want to hear some of that, but the conversation has to go a little bit deeper. So if you're just talking about your job and you're just talking about the kids and just those basic things like that, then that's not very good, okay? So talk about some things that would interest your spouse, like the future. And believe it or not, one thing you need to talk about, and we're going to talk about this when it relates to men, is you need to talk about money. That's very important too on that. I knew of a lady that she said she loved her husband, and they were married maybe 12 years, but she ended up divorcing him because they never had a talk on money, about money. He would go buy and purchase different things, and she just thought, she needed more security. She just didn't need that living from paycheck to paycheck type thing. So that would go back into goals maybe, but they did need to talk about money. She told me, she says, he just never talks about money. He just spends it. And I just feel, I just don't have that security there that I needed. So it ended up in a divorce, although they're friends since they're divorced, but she just couldn't have him as a spouse, being that they've never really talked or had this understanding about money. The other thing that women, or most women like, is quality time. We love quality time with our spouse. Quality time does not mean that you have me, the woman, on the, you're watching sports. You say, hey, baby, come sit down. We're going to watch this game of golf, watch this football game. And your spouse is sitting by you, and you're like, hey, pass me the chips, that type of thing, and you think that's quality time. That's not quality time. Or if you're repairing a car in the garage and you ask your wife to come pass you the monkey wrench or something like that and say, hey, baby, sit right there while I'm working on this car. That's not quality time. A woman would like, for quality time is where it's just, and I don't want to say just you and her, because the reason I'm saying that is I have to call back to my relationship with my husband. I've told you how I feel about my kids. My kids are always around me, and I enjoy them being with me. I mean, they celebrate my wedding anniversaries with myself and my husband. Some people think that's unhealthy, and some of you are saying, whoa, you're doomed for failure. But there again, that goes into another story. My kids are growing up so fast that I like to share special moments with them. And it's just so dear to me that on my wedding anniversary, we went out to dinner, and my son and my daughters were sitting right there at the table. And it was okay with my husband because he loves them just as much too. Matter of fact, he asked me, are the kids coming? And I was like, yeah, they're coming. And so it was fine. But then after we ate dinner, we took them to the restaurant, the neighboring restaurant. We let them get their ice cream, and then we did have a moment together to drink some coffee and tea. So we did carve some time for ourselves within that time with our family, with our kids. So that's very important. So even though the coffee and the tea little session that we had was kind of short, it still was that quality time. And during that quality time, we talked. It was really romantic. And that's what women like. We like a little romance where, baby, how do you feel today? Or, what are some of your dreams? Or, just how did you feel when, you receive your dessert? I mean, something really, it's kind of, you just have to get down with the woman to see what we like. Some of us like some little things that most guys are like, oh, I don't care about that. I don't care about that. But it's things that we care about. For instance, when I love to garden. So when I'm out gardening in the yard, my husband may come up to me and say, oh, that flower is pretty. And just that compliment of saying that flower is pretty. And he may ask me, well, where'd you get that? Oh, you should plant some more of those. When he does that, it's like, whoa, he really gets me. And that's what you want. It's those little things like that in that quality time, saying those words that your spouse or your significant other may want to hear. So we've got this. We've got emotional support. You're meeting those emotional needs of your significant other. And then you're having that real conversation. You're spending quality time. And then less negativity. That's very important to a relationship. You can't be negative all the time. If your person, your spouse, your husband, your wife asks you a question, honey, what do you think about this car? No, we're not going to get that car. That's a bad car. That car is bad on gas. Don't be negative. Just turn it around and say, hey, what do you think about, she's asking you, what do you think about the car? You may say, oh, let's look at it more closely. And then when you say, let's just do some research on the car. And then when you find you're reading the guide on the car, and you say, hey, look, this car uses X amount of gallons per gas or something to get somewhere. And then you could bring it up that type of way. But at first, don't just say no. Okay? And especially if a lady is putting on an outfit and says, honey, how do I look? You don't need to say bad. Okay, you can have to say, oh, that looks okay. Hey, that burgundy dress you have? I mean, something like that. You say, I really love you wearing that. And then, of course, most women may read more into that, so I'm not looking good in this. But no way do you say, no, never be negative. We just don't like negativity on a lot of things. And when your lady, speaking of this, when your significant other wants to do something, and now I'm talking about on the side of the female right now, and then we're going to talk later about the man. But when your significant other, your person, when she wants to do something, maybe venture out, have another adventure, when she wants to venture out and do something totally different, please don't be negative. For instance, when I got ready to do this show, when I told my husband that I was interested in doing Living with Mary J., he was so supportive. To me, he was like, yay, okay, yeah, you can do this. That's what I needed to hear, because I was doing something totally different. I was teaching. I was doing other things. My other career paths were in something other. He didn't say, what, you want to be a talk show host? I mean, where do you get that from? He just said, you can do that. And so that was so positive, and that's what I needed to hear. So men, you got to be positive. We need to hear that positiveness. We don't need any negativeness. It's just not good. It's just like when someone's negative to me, it's just like someone's just like stepping on my soul in the inside. I don't like it. It's not good at all, okay? So no negativity. And the other thing that women love is this, and it goes back to that real conversation. We really want you to listen, not bridge our conversation when we're talking, not insert words that, to make the conversation shorter. We need you to listen to us. When we're telling you that we're feeling a certain way, it can be, now a lot of ladies will be upset with me about saying this, but it's true. I think it's true. Sometimes when it's that certain time of the month, the first thing some women would say, well, men have it too. Okay, I got that. But sometimes some women are just a little bit kind of off. And I'm not saying a lot that we're, but I hear a lot of men like, oh, they like growl at that and they just call the woman crazy and they just make these ugly remarks. No, you don't want to do that. You want to be you want to understand what they're going through. You want to be gentle. You want to be very supportive on that. And then you just want to listen to what they're saying. Don't blame it on the hormones. I hear that a lot. Never, ever say that to your spouse. Listen, when they're telling you, let's say if you're talking about something if she's talking to you about something, maybe a room extension, that's what I was telling my husband. I was like, oh, let's get another room added to the house because I really love living in this community and I don't want to move because if anybody live around Atlanta, the traffic is horrible. And so I live in a spot that's kind of close to the interstate, and I don't like sitting in traffic, so I really don't want to move, but I need a little bit more space. So I was asking him, I was like, just brought up the conversation. I said, why don't we get a couple more rooms added to the house? It's kind of funny because he really wanted to say, let's just get another house. You would spend just that amount of money adding an addition rather than, just moving into another house. But he listened to me. And he just listened to everything. We even went through drawing things out and how we would shift things around. And it was really, really good. And I felt really good inside that he was really listening to me. So that's what women like, okay? So let's just go ahead and recap some of the things that women like. First of all, we want our emotional needs to be met, okay? We want to know that we're loved. We want to feel that we're loved. We want to hear you say that you love us. We just want to love, love, love. It is just wonderful, okay? We want you to show us that you love us. Open the door to the car, even if it's raining. Go ahead and do that. We'll lean over and we'll open the door for you too. So just show us that you love us. Show us that we're number one. We always want to feel that we're number one. And then the other thing that we want this real conversation with you. We don't want to feel like you're just brushing us off as that type of thing. We want real conversation where we're talking about our dreams, our hopes, our future, where we want to, travel, where we want to retire, and so many other things, our future plans, how we want to progress on our careers, that type of thing. We want real conversations because it matters to us. Our lives matter just as much as yours. It does. And then we want that quality time. And it could mean that you're just spending just a few moments with us, and with that quality time. Sometimes we're just happy. Like if you have I guess my husband would always say a tea time. You're going to meet your golf buddy somewhere. That if one day you say, you know what, I did have a tea time with Mike, but I'm going to cancel that and I'm going to take you out to dinner. That would just really make a lady feel good, that you're giving, that you're sacrificing something that you wanted to do for her. And that's building that relationship up, okay? And she's going to realize that you actually sacrificed for her. So therefore, she's caring. I mean, she understands this about you. And then the other thing is that we don't want any negativity. Negativity is a no-no. So no negativity. It's very bad. And then we want you to listen to us. Listen to what we're saying. Now, I've talked about the women because I'm a lady, as I said. Now, let's talk on the men just really briefly. The men want some of the similar things that women want. But I think what tops their list, I know with my husband, is they want to talk finances. Most men do. They want to, what they want to do with the finances is different, but some men just want to know that they have security there to take care of their families because if they're really responsible, they know that they're the head of the household, that they're responsible. Even if the wife has a job, everything's going to fall on them. So they need to know that the finances are in order and about the future. And if you're going to, ladies, if you're going to buy a $100 dress or whatever the case is, then you need to share that with your husband so that he can see that. Because money problems have ended a lot of marriages. So you really, really have to talk about finances. And most men, they do want to talk about it. Now keep in mind, some women do too. Yeah, they do. I do too, but mostly men want to talk about money. And this is a little bit here. Now women want intimacy, but with men, it's like number 2 on the list. And sometimes it's number 1, okay? So it may be interchangeable. They want some type of intimacy. You've got to make sure that the intimacy is there in the marriage in some shape, form, or fashion, okay? I'll just close that, and then we'll just move on to the other thing that mostly men want. They want an understanding that they are the man, and sure enough, around the household, they do different chores. My husband mows the lawn. He does a couple of other things too. A whole lot of things. He keeps the house going in a way. I have to have a mutual respect for what he's doing. If he's doing something out there and he's getting sweaty and it's hot outside, I do. I take him a glass of water and I'll say, thank you. Thank you for doing what you're doing. Men love for women to show them gratitude, that they're grateful for what they're doing. Boy, that is good. And that's a secret, women. Make sure that you do that you always tell your husband, your significant other, thank you for what you're doing. Let them know that you realize that they put a lot of effort into that. Because listen, if he's trying to repair something underneath the sink, and I've seen my father do this. They're laying there on the floor and, stuff falling on their face, and they're up under a tight space and up under a sink. Some women can do it, but basically that's a lot of work there. And you need to respect what they're doing and say, honey, that's a great job. I appreciate you doing that. You saved us a bunch of money. We didn't have to call in a plumber to do that. So show that you're grateful for that. And then some of the chores, if you can take some of the chores off of them, if there's different things, if you can, women, come on, we can vacuum, we can do the laundry. Some people say I'm old-fashioned, that men should do this too. Yes, they can do it. But for the majority or the most part of it, I think I know I'm going to get some of you guys are going to write me letters about this because it was just how I was raised. I think that we should just go ahead and do it. Now, if the man helps you, yes. And I know a lot of women are going to say, I work just as much as he works. I work 8 hours or 10 hours, so he can do it. We share. If you share and that works for your relationship, great. I'm happy for you. You should be happy for yourself. That's really good. Go ahead and do that. So we realize that men are totally different than women. Some of the things that are important to them are not necessarily important to us, but we still have to respect that. Now, the other thing that's important to most men is that they have their recreational time. If your husband likes to play golf or go play tennis or go race cars. I don't know what else guys like to do, gather up with friends in the man cave and watch games and drink beer or drink champagne or just go hang out at the bar. If that's the case, allow that person to have that time. Now, if you need that time too, you take that time. You take a girls' night out. That's okay too. But allow your spouse to have some time for himself away from you. I think that's cool. I think that will be understandable. You just have to really understand what's needed in a relationship. And all of these things that I've mentioned can make it a better relationship and make it really stronger. Okay. Now, this comedian, his name was Henry Youngman. He's an American comedian. And he had this quote, and I thought it was so interesting. He said, "The secret of a happy marriage remains a secret." When I read that, I thought that was interesting because even though I've given you all these tips, it's just going to depend on the individual. It's going to depend on if it's something that you want or something that your spouse wants. Because there's not really a secret. We can just talk about these things, and I think it will help. I know that it's helped in my marriage, some of these things that I've mentioned, and that's why I'm sharing them with you, that it will. And then sometimes it's just about timing. I recall back before I actually married my husband, I was in my 20s and I was dating a few guys, not all at the same time, but I was dating, and it was just a matter of timing. Some of them, and I feel sorry, even for them today, and I owe them an apology, they were decent people. They were, really decent men and I'm sure now they're living successful lives and they're probably very happy, I'm sure, and I want them to be. but it was just timing between me of what I wanted. Right then, I didn't want a relationship. Some of them wanted a relationship. I couldn't meet them at that point. But when I met my husband at the time, my boyfriend at the time, who's now my husband, currently my husband, it was timing. I was ready to put all of these things into the relationship that I wanted. And then once, we got married, I started putting all these things forth because I wanted to be successful, right? Okay. So just to recap, we wanted the ultimate goal of us, of us women, men too, is that we want a successful, strong relationship. We want a successful, strong marriage. And there's different things that we have to do. I do them, and I suggest that you do some of these. You just pick and choose what you want. Women, we want our emotional needs met. As I said, we want people to listen to us. We want to spend some quality time with you. We want less negativity. We want you to listen. Men, they want they want you to talk about finances. They want to plan for the future. They want to make sure that they have some security. And women do too. I know they do. They want to make sure that intimacy is there within the marriage. And women do too. I admit that. I'm just talking from a man, what I think is really important from a man's standpoint, what I've learned as a woman. And then men want to make sure that you respect them. You give them that respect that's due. They want to know that you are grateful for what they're doing. And then in return, when you give them, you show them that you're thankful, that you're grateful, they're going to give it back to you. It works all the time. It does. It's just a mutual type thing where you give, I give. Teddy Pendergrass had this song a long time ago. I think it was, can't think of the name of it, but it was basically talking about relationships. And he says, the relationship was doomed for failure because he doesn't want a relationship where he gives 60 and the other person gives 40%, or he's giving 80 and she's giving 20%. He said, I want a 50-50 love. And I remember that from being a little girl. I was like, oh, I want a 50-50 love. And that's how relationships should be. It should be 50-50. Your spouse shouldn't be giving a certain percentage and then you are giving this little small amount, or he shouldn't be giving a small amount and you giving a large amount. It should be 50-50 based on love and based on understanding. It's a great thing. Okay? So I'm hoping that something that I've said here has helped you. Remember, my disclaimer is I'm not really a professional on this. I'm just trying to share some things with you because I want all of the relationships to work. I want that percentage of divorce to decrease. Because I just want everyone to, because once you say I do, that should be, that's like, the ultimate words there. I do. You want your marriage to live forever, to go on a lifetime. You don't want to go through that hardship, nor do you want to bring, if you have kids, you don't want to bring kids into a negative world or negative situation. You don't want that. So work on it. If you have any questions, just email me, write me a letter, okay? I'd love to hear from you. This is Mary J, and I'm just living this life.